afternoon, everyone. We are going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to 2022 Annual Vendor Training. I'm Terry Buckler. On the webinar with me is Jaden from our training center and Andrea Tompkins, also from the vendor unit. The training center is monitoring this webinar, the attendance. You can't leave early. You must stay online for the entire webinar. If you leave early, you are not going to receive credit for this training, and you will be required to attend another one. So let us get started. The other thing I want to mention is if you have any questions during this training, put them in the chat box. If we don't answer the question right away, we will answer it before we complete the webinar. So federal regulations and your vendor agreement require that all WIC authorized vendors participate in annual training. Our agenda for today includes what is WIC, what it means to be a WIC vendor, processing a WIC transaction. We're going to talk about some new things happening in WIC. We'll review the vendor agreement, talk about the approved product list and the minimum stock requirements. We'll talk about what to expect on a store visit, and we're going to do a few what would you do scenarios. And then at the very end, I'm going to tell you what you need to do to get credit for this training. The last couple of years have been challenging for everyone, and the Maryland WIC program wants to extend a great big thank you to all of you. You're extremely hardworking. You've been on the front lines making sure everyone could get their groceries, not just our WIC participants, but everyone. And we do want you to know that we absolutely appreciate your dedication. What does WIC stand for? WIC is a nutrition program that provides healthy foods, nutrition education, breastfeeding support, and referrals to healthcare and other services free of charge to Maryland families that qualify. More than half of the infants in the United States participate in WIC. And in Maryland, we have about 125,000 participants on a monthly basis. Who can get WIC? Women that are pregnant or have recently had a baby, breastfeeding moms up to the baby's first birthday, infants and children up to their 5th birthday. Participants do need to live in Maryland, meet the income guidelines, and have a nutritional need. In Maryland, we provide food benefits to our families into one family eWIC account, and that is accessed by an eWIC card. Participants may shop in any WIC authorized store in the state, and they don't have to buy all their foods in one single shopping trip. They can use their benefits as they need them throughout the month. The Maryland WIC program considers our vendors to be our partners, because without our vendors, we would not be able to our participants wouldn't be able to obtain the nutritious foods that we've prescribed for them. Currently, we have about 550 authorized vendors, and studies show that WIC shoppers are going to spend an additional $3 to $4 in your store for every WIC dollar they spend. So when you welcome a WIC customer in your store, they're not only spending their WIC money, they're spending their own money. So it could be a substantial increase on your sales. In 2021, food sales in Maryland were more than $81 million. That's a big chunk of money, and we absolutely could not do it without our vendors. So what's new? We're going to take a few minutes and I'm going to talk about the new things happening within the Maryland WIC program. Increased CVB benefits. What's a CVB? It's a cash value benefit, and that's for the fruits and vegetables. As part of the American Rescue Act, the dollar amount of the fruit and vegetable benefit has increased. The increase was set to expire in March, but was extended through the end of September. Children used to receive $9 a month. They're now receiving $24 a month. Women used to get $11 a month. Now, breastfeeding moms get $47 and postpartum moms get $43. That is a lot of money to spend on fruits and vegetables. There is talk about trying to make this increase permanent. There's a bill in the House that's going to be reviewed tomorrow. I know things, sometimes move slowly through Congress, but hopefully this is something that's going to happen and the increased benefits will continue for our participants. Whenever we know, we'll let you know. So paperless WIC applications and agreements is something new. We in the vendor unit have been working on this for a couple years, actually since we went, since COVID began. Now, all applications, agreements, and related documents are digital. Scanned and paper applications will no longer be accepted. If you take an application and fill it out and then scan it and send it to us, we're going to send it right back. You must complete all your applications digitally. There is, when we send you these documents, we will also send you instruction on how to download Adobe if you don't have it on your computer, because that's all you need to complete the documents. And once you have them done, you're going to send them back to Andrea.Tompkins@maryland.gov, and you're going to CC Mara Shea. And please keep a copy for your records, a digital copy. You should always keep a digital copy of anything you send to us. eWicket self-checkouts. So last year, a few stores had their self-checkouts certified for WIC. This year, we've had more certified. What this means is participants can go to the self-checkouts for their WIC transactions. And they really do like this. The stores that have been certified are Acme, Giant, Harris Teeter, Martin's, Price Rite, Safeway, ShopRite, Walmart, and Wise. If your store is not in this list and you have self-checkouts and you want to get them certified, let us know. We'll work with your corporate and see if we can accomplish that for you. New authorized foods list. Well, it's not quite so new anymore. It's been in effect since October 1st of 2021. And we are still waiting for those printed copies. We still have not received them. When we do get them, we are going to do a bulk mailing for all stores. We'll send out what we think you need. We want you to keep a copy at each cash register. Keep a stack of them at your customer service desk. When we do the bulk mailing, if we don't send you enough, just let us know and we'll send you more. Formula recall. Oh, we all know about the formula recall. It's impacted millions of families across the country. For the first time that I know of, families were allowed to return the recalled lots of formula to stores for exchange or refund. Now, if your store has closed out your return to Abbott and you're no longer accepting returns of the affected lots, please refer any participants that come in with recalled lots back to their clinic. The supply of Similac Advance is plentiful now, and participants should be able to find it in most stores. If your store is still experiencing out of stocks on Similac Advance, let us know. Email us at mdh.wicvendor@maryland.gov, and we will try to help you figure out what's going on, because there should not be any out of stocks with Similac Advance. The next what's new is two-tiered minimum stock. I'm going to explain that to you in the next couple minutes as we go through the required minimum stock. So everybody that's on this call, on this webinar, should know about required minimum stock. All stores are required to have the minimum stock on hand and available for immediate sale at all times stores open. Now, we know there's been supply chain issues, and we're taking that into consideration. Your ordering thresholds and additional quantities of WIC-approved food should be based on your WIC business. So if you are a high-volume WIC store, you're going to need to stock more than the minimum to ensure compliance. So with all the supply chain issues and staffing issues that stores have been experiencing, we have not been citing stores for failing to have the required stock. Once these supply chain issues have been resolved, we will once again start issuing violations for stores that don't have minimum stock. So the change to the Maryland WIC program that we have made to hopefully help vendors is we have instituted a two-tiered required minimum stock. What does that mean? It means that stores with 3 or less cash registers are considered a small store. Stores with 4 or more cash registers are a large store. These small stores are typically your small convenience stores, and they only carry a limited variety of foods. The larger stores carry a greater selection of foods. So as we go through the stocking requirements, I'm going to point out the differences. Large stores are not going to see a tremendous difference in the required minimum stock. Small stores will. There are big changes for the small stores. 2 of your handouts today are the new required minimum stock. And you can also access this in the vendor resource library on our webpage. So inside the authorized foods list, this is nothing new. It has the shopping terms on it. We want you to make sure that all your cashiers are familiar with what these terms mean, because it's going to be helpful for them when they're working on with WIC transactions, and it's going to help when they're trying to resolve issues. So the first thing we're going to talk about is infant foods. Infant cereal must be 8 or 16 ounces, and it has to be plain. It can't have anything added. Fruits and vegetables need to be in a 4-ounce container, but we also do allow 2-ounce 2-packs. Infant meat must be the 2.5-ounce jars. Now, for the minimum stock, large stores, nothing has changed. You have to have 2 varieties of cereal. Rice is a mandatory variety, but you only have to have 6 containers. You have to have 2 varieties of fruit and 2 varieties of vegetables, 16 containers of each. The infant meat, you have to have at least 1 variety in 6 jars. Small stores, you only have to have 1 variety of infant cereal, 3 containers. That 1 variety does not have to be rice. It could be oatmeal or multigrain, whichever you choose. You have to have 2 varieties and 2 varieties of fruits and 2 varieties of vegetables, just like the large stores, but you only have to have 10 containers of each. and you are no longer required to carry infant meats. Infant formula. Now, here's a change for both small and large stores. You are required to carry Similac Advance in the 12.4 ounce powder. Large stores now only have to have 15 cans. If you'll recall, it used to be 27 cans. Small stores only have to have 7 cans on hand. And per regulation, during an audit, retail vendor receipts for infant formula will not be accepted and will be grounds for termination. What does that mean? That means if we do an audit on your store, and we randomly do audits on stores, we're required to by federal regs, and you give us receipts for infant formula from another retailer, we are not going to accept them. You must purchase your infant formula from someone on the Infant Formula and Medical Food Supplier Directory. There is a copy of it attached in the handouts, and it is also in the vendor resource library on our website. I mean, remember, every store is struggling with infant formula. So it's not fair to the retailers or the families that need infant formula if a smaller store goes and buys it from a larger store and then leaves a large store short. Additionally, like I said, it is against the regs. Isomil. No change for the large stores. You still have to have 4 cans. Small stores, you don't have to carry Isomil anymore. Special formulas in medical foods. A special formula or a medical food is something other than the 2 required formulas, the Similac Advance and the Isomil. We do prescribe other formulas, and these special formulas and medical foods are usually for a baby that is not gaining weight or for a preemie, thus the name special. So most stores are not going to carry these formulas. The pharmacist is going to have to order them. Any store that has a pharmacy in it, other than Target's, is required to provide any special formula within 48 hours, excluding weekends and holidays. I would like everyone at this webinar to please make sure that your pharmacy staff and pharmacists are aware of this requirement. Just in the last week or so, we have dealt with an issue where a mom needed a special formula, and several pharmacies told her no, they wouldn't order it. It is a requirement. Now, there may be a case where maybe the warehouse they order it from is out of it, it's on back order. At that point, we can't do anything about it. But the pharmacist is required to at least try to order that formula. And please, as I said, make sure all your pharmacists are aware of this requirement. Fruits and vegetables. There's been no change to the fruits and the vegetables for large stores. Your large stores and small stores alike are required to carry 2 varieties of fruits, 2 varieties of vegetables. They can be fresh, frozen, or canned. Any of those are fine. Large stores, you have to have $32 worth. Small stores, you only have to have $16 worth. Dairy. Large stores, you have to have 4 gallons of whole milk. Small stores, you need to have 6 gallons of low-fat milk. Small stores, 2 gallons of whole, 3 gallons of low-fat. So that's a big change for the small stores. Large stores generally don't have an issue keeping this much in stock. I do want to talk a minute about lactose reduced and lactose free milk. That can be very confusing for everyone, participants and store staff. Read, if a participant brings up lactose reduced or free milk that won't go through, look at their benefit balance. They may have brought up a milk that's the wrong fat content. Because just like whole milk or low fat milk, the same holds true for the lactose reduced and lactose free. It comes in the whole fat, it comes in the low fat. So if you're having an issue with that, check the fat content and hopefully you can help your customer. Cheese. Large stores have to have 4 varieties of cheese, at least 6 pounds. There is lots of varieties for you to choose from: cheddar, American, Monterey Jack, Swiss, provolone, mozzarella, all kinds of flavors. So 4 varieties for the large stores. Small stores, you only have to have 2 varieties and 3 pounds. Cheese must be in an 8 or a 16-ounce package. And please do not let cheddar get you in trouble, because if you have mild cheddar and sharp cheddar, that's only considered 1 variety. So you would have to have an additional variety to cover that, because no matter what the sharpness is of the cheddar, it only counts as 1. Soy and tofu, you are not required to stock soy or tofu. We do issue benefits for it. If you choose to carry it in your store, that's great. If not, you don't have to. The same with yogurt. We do issue benefits, a lot of benefits as a matter of fact, for yogurt. Yogurt has to be in a 32-ounce container, and it goes by whole milk or low-fat milk, just like milk does. Again, you don't have to stock this. Most large stores do. Participants do enjoy buying yogurt. Proteins. The first protein I want to talk about is eggs. Eggs have to be medium or large. They can be white or brown. Cage-free is okay. Organic's okay. They cannot purchase specialty eggs like Eggland's Best or free range or pasture raised. Those are not allowed. Peanut butter has to be in the 16 to the 18-ounce jar. So for large stores, you need to have 6 dozen eggs and 6 jars of peanut butter. For small stores, you need 6 dozen eggs and 3 jars of peanut butter. Fish, we authorize chunk light tuna, pink salmon, and sardines. They all must be in a can, and they have to be packed in water. Multi-packs are allowed. Large stores, you need to have 30 ounces and 2 varieties. Small stores, you only need to have 15 ounces and 1 variety. Beans, dry beans need to be in a 16-ounce package, and they can't have that flavoring packet in it. Canned beans need to be 15 to 16 ounces and packed in water. No change for the large stores. You need to have 2 varieties and 3 pounds of dry beans, and you need to have 3 varieties and 12 cans of the canned. Small stores, you are no longer required to have dry beans. You do need to have 2 varieties of canned beans with a total of 5 cans. Whole grains. In the whole grain category, tortillas, brown rice, oats, pasta, and bread, they must all be 16 ounces. Buns and rolls can be 15 to 16 ounces. So the requirement for whole grains, large stores, you need to have 4 pounds and 2 varieties. Small stores, you need to have 2 pounds and 2 varieties. Juice. Juice for women is the 48 ounce or the frozen juice. You can carry either or, mix and match to obtain your minimum stock. Any brand of orange or grapefruit is okay as long as it's 100% juice. We did find while doing research that a lot of the 48 ounce containers are blends rather than a single flavor. So by leaving the blends authorized, it gives a bigger variety to the participants. Large stores, you need to have 2 varieties, 6 containers. And you, as I said, you can mix and match 11.5 to 12 ounce frozen, 48 ounce bottles, as long as you have 2 varieties and 6 containers. Small stores, you need 1 variety and 3 containers. Juice for children, that is the 64 ounce size juice. Again, orange and grapefruit, any brand, as long as it's 100% juice. Large stores, you need to have 2 varieties and 6 containers. Small stores, you need to have 2 varieties and 3 containers. I do want to make mention that some brands, like Ocean Spray, for example, has a line of juice cocktail blends that are not 100% juice, but they have a similar item that is 100% juice. These bottles are very close in appearance, so it's easy for the participant to grab the wrong one. So just be aware if they have a juice that's not going through, look at it and make sure it's really juice and not a juice cocktail. Cereal, cold cereal must be 12 ounces or larger. Hot cereal has to be 11.8 ounces or larger. Large stores, no change to the required minimum stock. You need to have 2 varieties of a whole grain, 6 boxes or bags, 2 varieties of a regular cereal, 6 boxes or bags, and 1 variety and 1 box of hot cereal. Small stores, you only need 1 variety and 3 containers of a whole grain cereal, 1 variety and 3 boxes or bags of a regular cereal, and you are no longer required to carry hot cereal. If you have any questions on the changes to minimum stock, please be sure to put them in the chat box and we will answer all the questions at the end. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the rules and regulations about the WIC transaction. When a customer swipes their card and enters their PIN, the system obtains their balance. The point of sale, which is the POS, determines if the benefits are available for the specific UPCs and PLUs that were scanned. Cashiers must scan every item that WIC customer brings to the checkout. The system is going to determine what items are allowed. If an item scans as approved, you must allow the purchase. Please do not police any WIC items. You truly don't know if a WIC item is approved until you scan it. because we are adding items to the approved product list every day as manufacturers come out with new products. Items that are not approved by WIC can be purchased with a different tender or voided from the transaction. Now, we do recommend that you do avoid by line item and not the entire transaction. If you do have to void the entire transaction, you need to run a balance inquiry afterwards to ensure that benefits were not removed from that participant's balance. Some stores are telling participants that the benefits will go back onto their card in a couple days. This is not true. Once a transaction is completed in an integrated system, which is what most of our vendors are, benefits cannot be put back on the card. If you happen to be a vendor that has a stand-beside machine, and there are very few of those, you can void a transaction as long as you haven't done anything after that transaction. But 99% of voids done are final, consider them final, and the benefits cannot go back on the participant's card. Now, if the eWIC card will not scan, you may key the number in manually, but only if the card is present. They can't show you a picture of the card on their phone. They can't hand you a piece of paper with the number written on it. They have to physically have the card. When you are scanning, only scan the UPC or the PLU that is affixed to the item being purchased. Please use the redemption review receipt and the authorized foods list to help your customer figure out why something wasn't included in the WIC portion of their transaction. Give all the receipts that print out to the customer. You don't need to keep any of them. An eWIC transaction that has more than 50 single WIC items in it is not going to go through unless you use the quantity key. This is a rare occurrence, but I mention it just in case you have that large WIC transaction and it doesn't go through. Usually it happens when someone has a lot of baby food. We're going to talk about store loyalty cards and BOGOs. WIC customers are entitled to all the same perks as any customer. Always allow and encourage the use of store loyalty cards, sales, BOGOs. But BOGOs don't work the same in all stores. For example, A has a BOGO advertised on 64-ounce Juicy Juice. When the cashier scans their first bottle, it rings up at $1.99. They scan the second bottle and it rings up at $0. This is a true BOGO, and the participant balance is only debited one container of juice. Store B has a BOGO advertised on 64-ounce Juicy Juice. The cashier rings up the first bottle, it rings up as $1. The cashier rings the second bottle, it rings up at 99 cents. In this scenario, WIC is paying for 2 bottles of juice, so the participant's benefit balance is debited 2 containers. This is not really a BOGO. It is a half-price sale. This is something you may have to explain to a participant one day. Now, if a WIC customer uses coupons, the total is going to come off the order. You're never allowed to give cash back to a customer in a regular transaction. Now, depending on that coupon, it might benefit the customer more to save it for their own personal use, since the discount is going to be to WIC and not to them. However, store loyalty cards should be used, and any credits that the store gives, like, for example, gas points or credits towards earning a turkey at Thanksgiving, The WIC customers can get those. They are entitled to those just like any other customer. Now, there are a few reasons why something may not go through, why it's not approved. Maybe the item isn't WIC approved at all. Maybe it should be, but needs to be added to the APL. Maybe it's not in the participant's benefit balance. Or maybe they don't have enough benefits left to purchase the item. Or maybe the benefit was never assigned to them to begin with. Now, if you encounter any problems processing an eWIC transaction, first, call your supervisor, call your front-end supervisor, say, hey, I need help with this. If they can't help, then reach out to your store's help desk. If your help desk can't help, then you're going to call Solutran. Keep their number handy in your office in case you need it. When you call them, have as much information about the problem as you can, you know, the date and the time, the card number, any details you can provide is going to help resolve the issue. We're going to take a minute and talk about some of the rules and regs. So every store must have a signed WIC agreement with the state agency. Most corporate stores don't even realize they have one because it's signed for by their corporate office. But you as a store have to do what the corporate office has agreed to, and that includes having a designated WIC trainer that ensures all your cashiers, including customer service staff and pharmacy staff, are trained in the proper way to handle a WIC transaction. Every store is required to have that minimum stock on hand. At all hours, your store is open. The agreement also says you're only going to purchase infant formula from someone on the directory. Vendors also agree to offer the same courtesies to WIC customers that are offered to all customers. Remember, a happy customer, whether they're WIC or just a regular customer, is likely to return to your store. Perform a balance inquiry when requested, and be sure to give all receipts to the participant. Always have the most recent APL downloaded to your POS. This is going to prevent lots of problems. And only scan the UPC or the PLU that is affixed to the item being purchased. You're not allowed to have a scan book. You're not allowed to have a scan sheet. If we see those items in a store, we're going to confiscate them, because you're only allowed to scan the UPC that's on the item they're trying to buy. Vendors also agree to display the WIC accepted here sign in a conspicuous place in the front of the store. My suggestion to stores: have it in your window, have it at your customer service desk. Why in two places? Well, because all stores have their windows washed occasionally, and all the signs come down for that, and a lot of times they don't get put back up. So if you have the WIC accepted here sign at your customer service desk, you are covered. Many stores now, many chain stores, have what's called an all-in-one poster. It's a big poster they put up in their front window, and it tells the customers everything the stores offer. You know, whether or not they have Western Union or money orders or whatever. It also, most of these also say WIC. It's a lovely sign, but it is not our sign. You are still required to have the sign we send to you posted in your window or at the customer service desk. If you do not have our sign posted, it is a violation. Vendors also agree that they're going to have a valid email account for each store that is checked on a regular basis to receive information and updates from us. The email address for your accountant is not acceptable. It has to be for the store. Please report any problems with WIC participants on the complaint form. The complaint form is located in the vendor resource library on our website. If you had a problem with a participant, hit reprint receipt and attach it to that complaint form. And that way we have the details of the transaction. Stores are required to retain all WIC-related accounting records for a period of 3 years. Stores that have a corporate office, they're generally going to hold these for you. Other stores that don't, you are required to keep these records. And an accounting record can be anything from an invoice to your sales and use tax, to your federal income taxes. Anything that pertains to WIC must be retained for 3 years. Stores need to provide inventory records when we request them. I mentioned earlier we do audits randomly. One type of audit is an inventory audit. So we will ask you for your inventory records. Within the vendor agreement, stores are required to have their prices posted at, on, or near all WIC authorized foods. You can use shelf labels like the one pictured. Some stores still individually price their food items, that's fine. And still other stores post a list of prices. That's okay too, as long as it's posted in a conspicuous place and you have created the list yourself and it does not have the WIC acronym or logo printed on it anywhere. A few things that vendors are not allowed to do. They may never ask a participant for their PIN. You would never give the PIN to your debit card to someone. Well, their eWIC card, their PIN for their eWIC card is like cash, except for food. You may never ask for identification. You may never allow unauthorized foods or substitutions. You can't give incentive items solely to WIC customers. If you're doing a giveaway, it has to be for all customers, not just for WIC customers. You may not use the WIC acronym or logo without prior written permission from the program. You may never allow the refund or exchange of WIC foods. Now, the formula recall was a special circumstance. So you were allowed to do a refund or exchange for the recalled formula lots. Other than that, you are not allowed to do refunds or exchanges of WIC foods. If a food is spoiled, you may do an exact exchange of the same item. That's allowed. If you have an issue in your store with participants trying to return WIC foods or exchange WIC foods, we can supply you with a sign that says it's prohibited. WIC approved stickers are not allowed to be placed on foods. Sometimes the bread vendors will do this. They'll put a sticker on the end of the loaf of bread that says WIC approved. If you see that, peel them off. They're not allowed. Vendors cannot make banners or signs that promote WIC. You're only allowed to use the sign that we provide to you. We're going to spend a minute or two reviewing the approved foods list. The approved foods list is a database of more than 20,000 universal product codes and price lookup codes. It used to be 17,000, but now since we've updated the authorized foods list, added organics, it increased the number a lot. So over 20,000 UPCs and PLUs. And it's always, the APL is always going to be a work in progress because manufacturers add and remove UPCs on a daily basis. This database is maintained by the state office and it is downloaded nightly into your store's POS system. Stores that have a stand-beside machine, make sure you leave that machine turned on so it can download. If you find that you are experiencing a lot of rejected foods, you may not have the most recent APL downloaded. Check with your IT department and make sure you do. As I said, the APL is always going to be a work in progress. If your store receives something new in that you think, oh man, this should be WIC approved, check it with the APL checker. I encourage store management and those that order to have this downloaded so you can check to see if an item is in the APL. Myself and the rest of my vendor team, we use this every time we're in a store because we'll see something that we've never seen before and we'll scan it to see if it's approved. If it's not approved and we think it should be, we will upload it right through the APL checker and you can do the same thing. That's the easiest way to get a UPC to us. Now we're going to talk about produce mapping because produce mapping is probably the one thing that causes the most problems at checkout. Stores receive fruits and vegetables from new suppliers all the time. And many times these UPCs need to be mapped to a generic PLU. Now the term mapped or mapping is used for fresh produce. It's never used for cans or frozen. It's only used for fresh. And UPCs that start with a 2, a 4, or a 9 are store generated UPCs. They're not unique and they have to be mapped. Let's say your store is doing cut up watermelon. So your produce department, cuts the watermelon in half and wraps it and puts a sticker on it. Well, that sticker is a store generated UPC. So in your store, it's for a cut watermelon, but in the store down the street, they had a lot of cookie sheets left over after Christmas, so they marked them down and they created their own UPC. And it happens to be the same one as the one you just created for the watermelon. So those store generated UPCs have to be mapped. And since they're mapped, we can't add them to since they're not unique, we can't add them to the APL. So for your store that did that cut watermelon, you're going to have to take that UPC and map it to the PLU for watermelon. And then that way it's going to scan and it's not going to cause frustration at the checkout. If you are unsure of how to map these UPCs, reach out to your IT department and they can help you map these UPCs. Once they're mapped, you're in good shape and they're going to scan at the checkout. Store visits. Now that things are pretty much back to normal, you're going to see more WIC staff out and about in your stores. So we are going to review the different types of visits so you know what to expect. When we are out there visiting your store, it's the perfect opportunity for you to discuss any issues or concerns that you have with transactions or participants. The most frequent visit is going to be a monitoring visit. The USDA and state regulations both require that the local agencies and the state WIC staff routinely monitor stores. These visits are unannounced. During a visit, the WIC rep is going to observe the following. Is that WIC accepted here sign posted in a conspicuous place in the front of the store? If the store has stand-beside machines, is the WIC accepted here sign posted at that checkout lane where the participants can see it? How many checkout lanes does your store have? How many self-checkout lanes does your store have? Is your store clean and sanitary? Are there outdated foods on the shelves? Yeah, we're going to look at the dates. Are there prices posted at, on, or near all the WIC foods? Are shelf tags used only on WIC approved foods? We do have little blue stickers that indicate an item is a WIC approved food. You are not required to use them. They do help the participant when shopping, especially if it's in a category that's a little bit confusing. Let's say the eggs, because cage-free are not allowed, but organic are. So you can see where it might help. But then you do have to be cognizant of the fact that when you do a lineup change, those labels get changed along with the item. Now, many large stores have the word WIC incorporated on their shelf tag, and that's great. We've approved that. So if you're a store that wants to have it incorporated on your shelf tag, let us know. We can make it happen. The other thing we're going to look for is, are there any of those WIC approved stickers on foods? Does each checkout have a copy of the authorized foods list? Of course, that's when we get them in. I would advise stores to print 1 or 2 copies from the PDF to have to share at the checkouts. There is a PDF in your handouts that you can print from, or it's also on our website. If the WIC rep documents any violations during their visit, the store is going to receive a warning letter explaining the violation. As I said, we are not going to issue any warning notices for minimum stock until the supply chain is back to normal. But we could issue a warning for something else. Now, a follow-up visit is going to be conducted 2 to 3 weeks later. This ensures the store time to correct the violation. Now, when we come back to your store on that second visit, if those violations are still there, we are going to issue another warning letter. We're going to wait another 2 or 3 weeks and come back, give you time to get it fixed. But if it's still not fixed on that third visit, the store faces disqualification for a year. Educational buys. We have started doing educational buys. And what that is someone from WIC, whether it's the state office or the local agency, are going to come into your store and they're going to make a purchase. We are using this as a tool to make sure your cashiers are trained properly. So we're going to make a purchase, and then once it's completed, the rep will ask to speak with store management, whoever's on duty, and we're going to review the results of that educational buy. Hopefully it'll be 100%, everything was great, that's super fantastic. But if there is a problem discovered, it will be documented on the vendor educational buy report. A follow-up visit is likely. And we'll do a follow-up just to make sure those cashiers have been retrained. We will never issue a violation or sanction against a store during an educational buy. We are there to help you. We're there to identify problems. Now, frequently, as a result of an educational buy, it's going to indicate to us that there's a need for cashier training. Virtual cashier training is available throughout the year. The schedule's posted on our webpage. Pre-registration is required. If the scheduled trainings don't meet your store's needs, we are happy to schedule a cashier training at a day and time that works for your store. If you feel like your store would benefit from an in-person training, I can come into your store and spend the day working with your cashiers. Reach out to me and we can get one scheduled if you feel like you would benefit from that. The other type of visit you're going to receive is an unannounced on-site review. Now, this type of visit is performed when a store is being reauthorized or a new store coming onto the program. So during the on-site visit, the WIC rep is going to check everything that was checked during a monitoring visit. But in addition to all of those things, we are also going to collect UPCs and prices for each food category. Any store that doesn't have the required minimum stock during this visit is not going to be authorized. Now, we are making allowances for the formula issues. So if you are coming up for reauthorization and you're having a difficult time with formula, you let us know. Okay, the next section that we're going to do is, what would you do? ABC has a television show called What Would You Do? It presents different scenarios and asks, if you were confronted with the situation, what would you do? So we're going to share some real WIC scenarios and ask you, what would you do?
Terry, before we proceed, I do have a question in the question box for us.
Sure.
And the question is, cage-free eggs are WIC approved, but not free-range eggs?
Let me pull out. I don't know it by heart anymore.
Me neither.
All these changes. The free-range eggs are definitely not approved. They're very expensive eggs. Do I have, let me see if, let me put my authorized foods list out so I don't speak out of turn. Okay, I'm going to read this right from the authorized foods list. Okay, eggs. Not approved, free range or pasture raised, low fat or cholesterol free, omega-3s, pasteurized, fertile, or other specialty eggs. So cage free are allowed. Does that answer the question?
I believe so. We do have another question. Organic eggs are WIC approved?
Yes, they are. If we remember back to October when we started the new authorized foods list, all organics are allowed now except in infant formula. So if they're actually, let's use cereal for an example. A couple of organic cereals are now approved. So every category has organics in it, except for the infant formula.
Right. Thank you, Terry.
You're welcome. Okay, so we're going to do our what you would do. And I'm going to present a situation, and I'd like for you to type what you would do in the chat box. A participant is trying to purchase fresh strawberries and bagged apples, and the POS is not allowing them. What should you do?
The first is verify the item is a WIC item. The second one is check the PLU number, and 3 is check the balance items. So check the balance of what the participant has available. Make sure the item is correct. Check the WIC balance for fruit. Ask customer to review WIC benefits balance. Look at the balance for the fruit and the veggies. Check balance. Check the WIC receipt and verify that the item is a WIC item. So they're all answering correctly. Absolutely.
Okay, to expand on that, this usually happens when a store has not mapped fresh produce to a PLU in the APL. Call your supervisor, your front-end supervisor, explain what's happening, ask them to map the PLU. If this can't be done immediately, and it likely may not be able to be done immediately, check to see if there's a similar package of strawberries or apples that have a different UPC that will scan as WIC approved. Because remember, these are coming from all different farmers, and we may not have that UPC in the APL. It may have to be mapped. So that container of strawberries from Farmer Jones might have to be mapped to the generic PLU for strawberries. Okay. Next, a mom has brought Horizon Organic 2% milk to the checkout, but the system is asking her to pay for it. She doesn't understand why, because she used the app to scan it and the app said it was WIC approved. What should you do?
Make sure the item is the correct size. Check to see if it's on the authorized foods list. Check her WIC balance. Check the fat content. Check the customer WIC balance. Check the customer WIC benefits. Check to see if the fat percentage is correct. It can be the fat content, so look at her balance to see what fat content she is supposed to get. Verify the item is a WIC item. Organic milk may not be approved. Check to see, again, it says check to see the fat percentage is correct. Verify the item is a WIC item, and check to see if it's on her balance.
Okay, all good answers. Let's take it a step further. Ask the customer if she would mind scanning it again so you can see the message. Many times the participant sees the WIC approved message, but not the part of the message that says no benefits issued for this product. So it's a two-part message that the participant is going to receive when they scan an item with their WIC app. And if they're just quickly glancing, maybe they only see WIC approved and they don't see that they don't have benefits. So that's something that happens. Okay, next. Your store has been having issues with the front end or stand beside machine since there was a power surge early in the day. You are having trouble completing a WIC transaction, so you apologize and you void the transaction. What do you need to do before the customer leaves?
We are starting to get answers, Terry. The first is check their balance to see if their benefits were taken. Check the customer's benefits. That's repeated several times. Do a balance inquiry of the WIC card to ensure that their benefits are back. Call for authorization for the purchase. Check their balance. Check the WIC balance. Check the WIC balance to make sure the items did not redeem. Again, several comments about checking the balance. Make sure the transaction wasn't charged.
Fantastic answers, all right on the money. When something unusual, wrong mouse. When something unusual like this happens, always run a balance inquiry to be sure the benefits didn't come off the card. Sometimes you think the transaction didn't go through, but it actually did. So pulling that balance inquiry will tell you for sure. Everybody, great answers. Okay, so next, a customer comes back to your store claiming their benefits were taken, but they didn't get any foods. What do you do?
Receiving a couple replies. It says, check their balance for them, check the balance. Ask the customer to call WIC or run the benefits receipt, check the balance. Ask them for as many details as they have and escalate the concerns to WIC resources, check the balance. Look up receipt on RN to verify. Another answer is contact WIC, check the balance, ask to see their receipt, find the transaction and check balance to get information, review receipt in the main system, ask for a receipt to check the balance, reach out to WIC to verify the transaction went through, and check the balance and contact WIC if the problem continues. Ask when they came in so that we can look at the transaction. And then the last one, it looks like look up, let's see, look up the receipt on RN to verify.
Okay, all great answers, especially the one that said ask for details. Now, sometimes, as with any technology, there are glitches. If you have a customer come back and said, you know, I thought this was voided, I didn't get any foods, but my benefits are gone, reach out to us. We can confirm whether or not that transaction went through and whether or not the store was paid. You may be able to tell from your end. You may not be able to tell from your end, but we can always tell from our end. And please, you know, don't tell a customer, oh, it'll be back on your card in a couple days. That doesn't happen. I know it does with SNAP, but it does not with WIC. So just reach out to us and we will help resolve the issue.
Store electronic journal for the date and time of the transaction to find the transaction that happened and when the customer was at your location. We do have, let's see, locate the electronic journal. Ask when they came in so that we can look up the transaction. And then we have a couple other questions, Terry. How do we contact you on the weekend and are you open 24 hours?
Unfortunately, we are not opened on the weekends. We are not open 24 hours. The vendor unit does have coverage. I usually start working at 6:30 in the morning and there's someone available till 5. And that pretty much you can count on 8:30 to 5 across the board with the different units. As I say though, unfortunately, we do not work on the weekends.
Someone did answer stating Solutran can also assist.
Absolutely, Solutran can assist. So keep thinking about your questions. I'm going to go on with the presentation. We're getting close to done, but if you do have questions, I'd love for you to put them in the chat box so everybody can benefit from the questions and answers. So vendor tools to ensure your success is our WIC partner, authorized foods list at every checkout in the customer service desk. As I said earlier, print a couple copies off of the handout or from our website, share them amongst that front end until we get those printed copies in. The vendor handbook, if you don't have one, you let us know, we'll get you one. You should have at least one in your store. If you need more than one, we're happy to give you that too. The WIC shelf tags, should you choose to use them, they come on a roll of 100. We'll get as many to you as you need. The WIC accepted here sign. We want to make sure you have that posted. We'd be happy to give you a couple extra if you want to hold them in the office, just in case something happens to the one you've got posted. And probably your best vendor tool is your well-trained cashiers. Because if you've got well-trained cashiers, everything is going to run smoothly. The APL checker that I spoke about earlier, available for download from the Apple Store or the Google Play Store. Fantastic app, easy to use. As I said, I think store management should have it downloaded, maybe the front end supervisor. It's a very useful tool. The complaint form, I mentioned that earlier. If you have a customer that is difficult, causing issues, we do need to know about it. We can't resolve issues with participants unless we know there's an issue to resolve. So download this from our website, fill it out. It's a completely fillable form. Attach a reprinted receipt. We will take care of the complaint. We can't tell you the resolution due to privacy concerns, but rest assured we will take care of any complaints you send to us.
Terry, if I can interrupt for just a second.
Certainly.
We have actually two things when it comes to this category about complaints. One is if eWIC customer gets nasty, can we call and put a complaint in still?
Absolutely. If you've got an eWIC customer, you're processing their transaction. As soon as you finish that transaction, you hit reprint receipt. You attach that receipt to a complaint form, or you email us and take a picture of the form. That's all we need. If you forget to reprint the receipt and you can tell us what time the transaction happened, and maybe you're going to remember the total, we can zero in on that transaction and see what happened.
There is another question. Let me see. Give me a second. Is there a time limit to when the transaction has to be resolved when the customer claims their benefits came off but did not get the product?
There is no hard and fast timeline. We do encourage participants to let us know or come back to the store as soon as possible. A customer that waits a month to make a claim, well, everyone's memory is, fuzzy after that length of time. But if it just happened in the last couple days or the last week, most people are going to be able to recall what happened. So no hard and fast timeline, but the longer it takes for someone to report it, the fuzzier memories get and the less likely it is to be resolved.
Here's another question for you, Terry. At my store, if the total purchase is $50 or more, the customer is entitled to a free 2-liter soda. I assume WIC participants are allowed to this incentive?
Absolutely. As long as every customer that spends more than $50 can get that 2-liter soda, so can WIC participants.
And the last question I have for you is, will this PowerPoint be available to print?
This PowerPoint is actually one of your handouts. So you should be able to download it and print it. If not, if you have difficulty doing that, you send me an email and I will forward the PowerPoint to you. It will also be posted on our website at the end of August when we finish all the training sessions. Okay, on the screen right now is our contact information. Mine, I'm Terry. Andrea, who's been helping me. Ngozi is also a member of our team. We have a unit mailbox that is monitored by one of us daily, mdh.wicvendor@maryland.gov. If you're not sure who to email, use that email address. And one of us is monitoring it on a daily basis, and we will get back to you just as quickly as we can. If you know it's a training concern and you want to send it to me directly, that's fine as well. If you know of any fraud or abuse happening in the vendor community or with a participant, please let us know. You can shoot us an email. You can do this anonymously if you want through the dhmh.wic@maryland.gov box, or just email, the vendor unit. We do want to know if you know of any fraud happening. Now, when we sign off of this webinar and we close it out, the evaluation is going to pop up for you to fill out. You must fill this evaluation out in order to get credit for this training. If you're really rushed and you can't do it when we sign off the webinar, you're going to get an email tomorrow with the same evaluation. Either way, whether you do it now or you do it tomorrow, you do have to complete that evaluation. Until I receive it, your annual training requirement has not been fulfilled. You were planning on being on this webinar till 3 o'clock. It's only 20 after 2. So take the time to do it now and then you're done with it. Jaden, do you see any other questions?
Yes, this one, it says, I had an issue with the other week where a customer had a WIC approved item. It was on the card balance as well. However, it was not coming off with the rest of the transaction. How do I fix that problem?
It sounds like maybe it was that you didn't have the most recent APL downloaded. Or again, it could be that did they have enough in their balance to pay for it? It could be either one of those scenarios. If it's during business hours and this happens, you can give one of us a call and we'll look at it in real time. The other thing we always, when participants call and say the store wouldn't let me do this or let me do that, we always ask them to send us a picture of the UPC they're trying to buy. And that can usually help resolve issues.
It says, can more than one person complete the evaluation at the end?
Sure. If you both want to do it now, just put your name and then put the second name. And if you are rating different things different, just make note of that. Or one of you can do it now and one of you can do it tomorrow when the email comes through, whichever you think is easier.
I think that's it.
All right, everybody. I want to thank you for your participation and ongoing support of the Maryland WIC program. Please do not hesitate to reach out to us if you need any help with anything, if you need any clarification on anything. We are here to help. We are here and to help you. We want you to be successful as our WIC partner. Everybody gains by that success. So thank you and have a fabulous afternoon.